Of Education Wednesday on AM Chat. You're welcome. We have our analysts already in the house, and we also have our newspapers with us this morning. Our analyst is Mr. Uzo Chibuko. He is a social commentator and also political affairs analyst. He's sitting right here with us this morning. You're welcome, Mr. Uzo.
Looking very dapper. Good morning. You're welcome.
And he's also very well soft-spoken.
Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. All right. On my beat, I have the Punch newspaper, I have Nigerian Tribune, and the Daily Trust newspapers.
I have the Guardian, I have the Nation, the New Telegraph newspapers, and the Daily Sun.
All right, anyway, you have more than I do, so you start.
All right, I'm kicking off the segment this morning, and I'm starting with the Guardian, and it says, Washington cautions against excessive force on extremists. Kerry visits Lord's successes in anti-terrorism fight. Airstrike injures Shakal, kills Boko Haram commanders. We have more of that story on page 6 of The Guardian. We have more stories. Return of The Guardian literary series. Okay, that is an extra for Guardian. I'll stop there. Okay, National Assembly slashes CBN's budget by 50%. That story continues on page 3. On page 7, Presidential Anti-Corruption Committee summons Jibrin. On page 9, another 241 Nigerians flee Libya for return with gunshot wounds. Another 241 Nigerians flee Libya for returns with gunshot wounds. That story continues on page 9. CBN sanctions 9 banks over $2.334 billion NMPC funds. While we can't pay at once, CBN owes us $3 billion unfunded LCs. We have more of that story on page 6 of The Guardian. You have the next paper.
I do. I have the Punch newspaper, and it leads with a Khan calls emergency meeting over Zamfara, Kaduna killings. With 2 riders, no place for violence under my watch, says President Muhammadu Buhari. Act heinous. The killers must be punished, says NASFAT. That story continues on page 7. And about the mosque there, Jonathan's campaign funds EFCC to charge Falae with money laundering. That story continues on page 7. On page 11, Gowon meets Buhari over Chibok girls.
Yes, welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching AM Chat. We want to apologize sincerely for that break in transmission. It was occasioned by some technical hitches right here in our studios. Before we went on that short impromptu break, Romelia was on the papers. I think she'll continue now.
Yes, I will continue. The Punch newspaper on page 28, 2.3 billion naira dollars. No, I take that again. $2.3 billion NNPC funds. CBN bars 9 banks from forex markets, says CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele. On page 9, corruption costs global economy $2.6 trillion yearly, says John Kerry. On page 21, 272 firms shut down in 1 year. That's a lot. It says Manufacturing Association of Nigeria. 272 firms. And that's a lot of employees gone as well, a lot of job loss. On pages 4 and 5, 66-year-old man commits suicide over unpaid salaries after 272 firms shutting down. A 66-year-old man committed suicide over unpaid salaries. For more of that story, you can find pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. On page 9, Lassa fever, federal government identifies 59 contacts in Delta and Anambra states. Finally, Sagai committee invites Jibrin over budget padding petitions. That story is on page 10. And finally, on page 5, with the pictorial from the Punch newspaper, Libya repatriates 241 Nigerians to Lagos. Libya repatriates 241 Nigerians to Lagos. I needed to
emphasize that.
The Libya and the Nigerian part of it. Mr. Ozo, so many stories.
So many stories to talk about.
So where do we start from? Let's start from the killings. It is becoming something, a very worrisome phenomena in Nigeria at this point in time. And yes, we have blamed the government over the years. I think enough of the blaming on the government. I don't know what you think. Individuals, people need to now begin to understand the tenets of their religions. What do you make of the killings in Zamfara, in Kaduna? NASFAT is condemning it. The president has come out to categorically condemn it and say they will not go unpunished. What do you think?
Well, the crime, in actual fact, continues to grow once there are no deterrents. In all these years, I've been waiting to hear the day we will say 1, 2, 3, 4 to die by firing squad for any of this religious killing. It has never happened. In all these papers today, I've also been waiting to hear 30 people arrested, 2 people arrested. It was not mentioned. They will not go unpunished. How would they not go unpunished if they've not been arrested as we are here talking? So it will continue to grow until people themselves start feeling, look, nobody's really benefiting from this. But if you check the way we are structured, you will find out that to some people, this is doing God's will. And it also elevates them in their standing, in their own standing with God. So they cannot willingly stop it until there are serious deterrents. Somebody does this, and now, assuming I've now had 10 people have been arrested, I know they will ultimately be released, But check it, since you started recording this, since God knows when, how many people have been tied on the stake? Because it is murder. Tied on the stake for killing people and shot, so that others will know that, look, if you kill somebody in whatever name, you will also be killed. It has never happened.
Now, Mr. Ozo, this is a very broad platform, and I know a lot of people are watching. We'll talk about terrorism. And growing up as a child in Nigeria, there's always been one Maitasini, one thing, there's always been one killing, one thing, or headbeat. It's been on and on. And if you ask me, the problems that we have right now in the country as relates to Boko Haram, for me, I think these incidents are offshoots of what eventually became what we're facing now, where people kill in the name of God. People kill in the name of God. And the problem just continues. So there's a need for us on our part to sound a note of warning, talk to Nigerians, especially in the parts of the country where you kill in the name of God. I feel if indeed is God, he can fight for himself. If he decides to take a life that he gave, if God gives the life and he takes the life, he can as well fight for himself. So it's a call out to everyone listening. We should stop killing in the name of religion. We should stop killing in the name of God. Because if indeed he is God, if you're listening, let him fight his battles himself. That is all I have to say about the issue. Romela, you have more.
Yeah, okay, we'll move on now to the Nigerian Tribune, and it says a CBN bars 9 banks from forex transactions, with $10 billion trapped overseas due to doubtful policies. It says LCCI. That story is on page 4 on the non-remittance of NNPC's $2.1 billion to TSA. On page 33, arms purchase scam extended Boko Haram's reign, says President Buhari. Shekau wounded, others dead in airstrike, says the Air Force. Kerry in Nigeria makes Buhari Sultan 5 northern governors, says corruption costs the world $2.6 trillion annually. That story you can find on the Nigerian Tribune on page 6. National Assembly is broke, says Senate leader. That story you can find on page 30. National Assembly is broke. All right. On page 37, my electrocuted daughter made excellent grades in WASC, says a father. My electrocuted daughter made excellent grades in WASC. That's quite a sad one.
Very sad.
It's quite sad. May her soul rest in peace.
Amen.
President, and the picture there is of the President of Nigeria with the Secretary of State of the United States, Mr. John Kerry, with the President of Nigeria during the visit to the State House in Abuja on Tuesday. That's all I have from the Nigerian Tribune.
All right, I'm moving on now to the Nation newspaper, and the scribbling headline says, CBN sanctions 9 banks for hiding NNPC's $2.274 billion. UBA, we are not owing. Fidelity, Diamond seek to pay the balance in Naira. FCMB, CBN in talks. Will deepen anti-graft war, says Buhari. We have more stories on page 6 of the Nation newspaper. And above the mask, although APC chair have not declared candidate, Kekemeke defend himself. More stories on page 46. Sharpay found in Lagos pastor's home. Police dipping probe. More stories on page 4. Ajmobis okays 35 local council development areas. They are aid growth, he says. More stories on page 42. 10.3 billion probe. EFCC to seize Desiana's assets in America. Ex-minister acquired properties in associates' names. We have more of that story on page 6. Federal government uncovers 5,000 more ghost workers, says Bushibajo. We have more of that story on page 8, and on the front page of the Nation newspaper is a pictorial with tears from Libya. Nigerians deported from Libya at Hajj camp of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, Lagos yesterday. We have more of that story on page 41 of the Nation newspaper. So these are the stories. We're talking about CBN sanctions 9 banks for hiding NNPC.
We should start. Let's start with that.
Yes, we should.
For 2.1 billion.
That's a lot of money.
To TSA, even after they have been told to remit all the
money.
And now CBN sanctioned them.
9 banks.
From forex transactions, 9 banks.
That's a very good one. The sanction of the bank is very good. The question is that you did not comply to a genuine instruction, a valid instruction that was made. I only have a little challenge with how we treat things on the surface. Is there no criminal element in this?
Exactly.
If CBN has ordered banks to remit money or sweep money to TSA, and the banks for one reason refuse, I'm not sure it's only the banks by now that we should be looking at. The people of the NNPC that were also supposed to pass the instruction for such as, where are they? So there are too many. Such things should not just be sanctioning the banks. It looks too shallow to me. There should be a lot of other people that should pay for it, because sanctioning banks is neither here nor there. Whenever they have dollars, they you move them back, you restore them back to forex markets, case closed. Just that.
Mr. Ozo, you said something while you were talking about the people in NNPC who were involved in this. My question to you is, what is it with us, about us as a people, as Nigerians, that we cannot understand simple directives? Or we get the directive and we just assume, oh, it's just another day of talk. Why do we keep doing things the way we do them? And
nothing is always in
nothing.
In quote, there's always a Nigerian way to do everything, not the right way.
Yes, sometimes about how this information is passed. I'm not sure this money we're looking at is somewhere in NNPC account. No. You see, NNPC will have, gamut of accounts. Some of them might not even be a NNPC. So what happens is that, and some of them might not, quote and unquote, is not even money for NNPC. It might be joint venture money, So when you pass instructions, that's why they're also not going towards the criminal end. When you go through the dark crime, now you now need to prove crime. Maybe that's why they're not pushing it. Because you ask for government money to be swept to and they can also tell you that the money we're talking about does not belong to government, even though it's the custody of NNPC, but the money is not meant for NNPC. The money is meant for maybe, I don't know, I'm not trying to make case for it. But my case is that when we have issues like this, you don't just tell us you have sanctioned them as if it is one, maybe somebody has, in those days in my place, they say, if you steal cassava, it's not a big case. All you need to do is to drop the cassava back, and all sins are forgiven. As against stealing yam, I'm an Igbo man, so if you steal yam in Igbo land, it's a very serious case. But if you steal cassava, they just assume you're hungry. So all the owner of the cassava requires is just drop the cassava, case closed. So that's the way I see this. You can't just be telling them return the money. So what's the punishment for non-compliance?
All right.
There should be more personal punishment for it.
Okay. LCCI is making another case here, saying $10 billion trapped overseas due to doubtful policies. We've always complained about policies, changing policies. Sometimes they do not understand. Sometimes they're bogus. People now, LCCI is saying, there's a Chamber of Commerce in the industry is saying $10 billion is trapped. How are we going to change our doubtful policies to be able to get these monies out?
Well, the policies are very clear to this. The good thing about policy is that it's not just what you say, it's documented. It is documented in such a way that an average person that is expected to act on that policy must understand it. It's not, you don't need to be anything special. If you see a policy that you are meant to act on, with the qualification you are supposed to have to be in that position, you should be able to understand that policy. Where our own case is that because this policy continues to swing, I've said it in several fora that look, business abhors uncertainty. You can't plan, you don't just, if I don't know what will happen in the next 90 days, I won't invest. So if you have money trapped elsewhere, all you need to do is hold on. Let's wait, let's know the direction. Until you are sure of the direction, at least within the next 6 months, you can't move. If not, it will be a very colossal business loss for you.
All right. We're moving on now to the New Telegraph newspaper. The New Telegraph this morning says, recession, senators, reps shown constituencies. I'll take that story again. Recession, senators, reps shown constituencies were broke, says Senate leader. More stories on page 2. 2.1 billion naira NNPC funds. CBN bars 9 banks on forex deals. OPS demands review of foreign exchange policy. More stories on page 2 and 6. Libya deports 241 Nigerians. More stories on page 10 and page 6. Workers' protest plan concession of airports. Charlotte grapes found in Prophet's home. That story continues on page 8. And on page 7, recruitment. Police subject applicants to psychological test. High time. Military hit Shakal kills Boko Haram commanders Naf 300 terrorists killed in air raid. And finally, scientists record breakthrough in potent fertility treatment. More of that story on page 7 of the New Telegraph newspaper.
And I have my last newspaper on my page, and it is what Kerry discussed with Buhari on the Daily Trust newspaper, the leading headline. What Kerry discussed with Buhari, 5 governors. Above that, CBN bars 9 banks from forex transactions on page 5 of the Daily Trust newspaper. On page 4, 24 chained kids, 3 corpses found behind a man's house in Nigeria.
I don't know.
And on page 3, Shekau fatally wounded in airstrike, says Army. NLC protests nationwide over Nasarawa killings. NLC protests nationwide over Nasarawa killings. You can find more of the story on page 4 and on page 7 of the Daily Trust newspaper. 90% of Niger Delta projects abandoned, it says committee. One then begins to wonder why the agitation from the region. 90% of the Niger Delta projects abandoned, says the committee. Anyway, you have the last one.
Yes, the last paper is the Daily Sun newspaper. The Daily Sun this morning with the screaming headlines: US to Buhari, how to defeat Boko Haram. Force alone can do it, says John Kerry. More stories on page 6. And page 3, massive attacks. Fagambaka, quit priesthood and join politics. Pro-Biafra group turned Catholic priest. We have more of that read on page 3 of the Daily Sun. Forex, CBN bans 9 banks. Buhari gives Avengers last warning. Buhari gives Avengers last warning. I'll use force if pushed to the wall, declares President. Shakal badly injured in air raid, says military. And finally, 10,000 police recruits to undergo lie detection test. But before I go, I need to read this. The patrol on the front page. Members of the National Union of Air Transport Employers protesting against the planned concession of airports by the federal government at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja yesterday. These are all the stories, but before we go, we want you, Mr. Uzo, to please round up for us. So many stories.
Using the Kerry's visit to Nigeria, he has said, yes, the fight against corruption is a good one. Our fight against terrorism also is a good one, but force alone cannot do it. That we need to, look at other ways to fight terrorism and extremism in our country. What do you make of it?
Okay, it's a good one. It's obvious that when you are fighting ideology, the force can do it, because for each one you kill, there are about 8 more resident. So you need to stop the breeding points. Make sure that those ideologies are countered. Like you said, you don't need to kill for God. You don't want you to kill yourself. So once we were able to take off the breeding ground, so if you now use force to eliminate the ones that we cannot manage, then
so there's a balance.
There must be a balance. Then finally, the whole newspaper today, they sound very depressing. No good news. It's like the whole world is on us. Either people are killing people, banks are not remitting money. There's nothing to clap for. What the other guys say, they are broke. National Assembly, they are broke. Can't we just for one day or so see something to clap for? Shakau is dead. Shakau is not dead. We find that this is about the 4th time that man is dying. We just want to hear something to share for and be happy as people. The economy is already bad enough. I think a little good news will help this country now. That's my own submission. Very little good news.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you so
very much, Mr. Uzo Chibuko, for coming on our show this morning. There you have it. That's all we have on the newspaper review and analysis this morning. We are going to go on a short break now. We have our client, Lashon Group of Companies, who are here to tell us a lot about what they're doing, their trainings, and